sister. My name is Michelle Lynn, and we are a group of Marshall High School students dedicated to exploring and documenting the rich experiences of individuals in Marshall. So our mission is to preserve, share, and celebrate the rich history of Saline County through the lens of its students. By researching, documenting, and showcasing key events, figures, and milestones, we aim to deepen community pride and understanding. Through our work, we strive to connect the past to the present, fostering a sense of heritage and inspiring future generations to appreciate and contribute to the county's ongoing story. By sharing your experiences, you can help us preserve the unique history and culture of Marshall for future generations. We ask that you please review, sign, and keep a copy of our consent form that explains this in detail. Let's get started. First, for early childhood, can you tell us your full name and when and where you were born?
My full name is Christine Simonson Tuck. I was born in Rahway, New Jersey on February 24th, 1953.
Thank you. What was life like growing up? What did kids do for fun? What jobs did you have? Do you have any siblings?
I have one sister, older. Growing up in New Jersey was not all that different from growing up in Missouri. In the 50s, we rode bikes and went to the park and played on the swings and just did all the silly kid stuff everybody does, playing the creek, that kind of thing. But
sounds fun. What was your schooling like? This is like, how did you get to school? What classes did you take? What was your favorite subject? That sort of thing.
okay, I walked to school every day from kindergarten clear through senior year in high school. Neighborhood school for kindergarten through 6th grade. I had to go to the neighboring town, which was only 3 blocks from my house. It sounds weird, but I mean, everything is a lot more compact in New Jersey as compared to Missouri. So I walked 3 blocks to Island Junior High School in Island, New Jersey. And that was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And then I went to John F. Kennedy Memorial High School, which was right next door to the middle school. And that was 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
Awesome. What activities were popular and did you participate in any of them?
There was very few sporting events for women, but there was track in the spring, and I did run, and we made it to the Penn Relays one year, so we did pretty well.
Awesome.
Other than that, I was a twirler in high school. There was 18 of us, and we marched in the Orange Bowl Parade my senior year.
Wow. With
the marching band. So that was an experience, riding on Greyhound buses all the way down there and back. And
I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah, the smell wasn't great, but we had that in close quarters with people who haven't had a shower in 3 days. So anyway, it wasn't pleasant, but it was fun. How's that?
No, I love that. Well, let's move on to adulthood for a little bit. You mentioned that you were from New Jersey. What brought you to Marshall, or what did you do after high school?
Well, I decided that it was time for me to get away from my mother. And that was probably as much my fault as it was hers, although I like to blame her most for being a little bit on the domineering side and just typical 60s mom, protective and that kind of thing. So, but anyway, one of the coaches at my high school was a Valley grad, and he recommended I do it. And so he sent me to Marshall in a car with his 2 brothers. That was a long trip. But anyway, we drove straight through, and pretty much I've been a Marshall resident since then.
Awesome.
So, other than going home in the summers,
Yes.
for at least 2 summers. But that was it.
Awesome. That's amazing. Amazing. What was your impression of the area like at first? How was it different from where you grew up?
Everything's very spread out here as compared to where I lived in New Jersey. Like I said, every school I had was like 4 or 5 blocks from me, and it's that kind of thing. But and I liked that. I liked the space. The only downside I saw to the entire idea of living in Marshall was there was no ocean. And I had grown up in summers by the ocean, so that was a little bit tough to take, but you work around it. It's all good. Now when I go, I appreciate it more, so.
Yes, for sure. So I know that you stayed in Marshall, but could you tell me a little bit about your family? Did you get married? Did you have children?
Yes. I married Steve Tuck, who is actually from Marshall. His entire family is from the Marshall area. His dad in Shackelford, and anyway, we got married in 1975, March of 1975. So this year we celebrated 50 years. I have 2 children. My son is a conductor for Amtrak, and my daughter works for Marshall Public Schools. Imagine that.
Awesome. So what was it like to raise a family here?
Actually very easy. The neighborhoods I lived in, there was always, we tried to help each other out. Most of the neighbors, just would get together and work out schedules with all the kids and make sure everybody got to where they needed to be at pretty close to the time they needed to be there, but it was always pretty easy. I mean, I worked a full-time job where some parents, or some mothers particularly, didn't work full-time, but I worked at the Rehabilitation Center for 30 years, so.
Yeah, it'd be lovely if you could tell us a little about your career. I mean, I know you're the best substitute teacher now, but what was it like working at the Hab Center?
Well, I have to say that I did apply to Marshall Public Schools for a teaching job, but at the time it was very, very difficult to get on here, okay? And my mother-in-law was a supervisor out at the Hab Center, and she suggested that I try that for a while. Well, the while turned into 30 years, so it worked out for me. I was good with it. I was familiar with special education kids, although that's not what I majored in, but I had gotten used to them. I worked summer jobs in New Jersey with the special ed department in the school system where I went, so it just came pretty natural to me. So, and of course, it was an ever-changing environment at the Hab Center. When it was the state that only ran it, certain rules were certain rules. When the federal government got involved because of No Child Left Behind type legislation over the years, a lot of the rules and regulations became more stringent, and you had to kind of jump through hoops to meet their goals. And we did it, not necessarily happily, but we did it, and we got to the point where we could work it pretty well to make everybody happy, our people and theirs. So.
That's good to hear. During the time of your adulthood, what were some distinct memories you had of pop culture?
Okay. You tell me exactly what pop culture, what kind of things, what are we talking about?
Yeah, like music, TV, sports that you remember.
Okay. Music, mostly in the summertime, there was always new bands coming to the shore area. Of course, I've been to the Stone Pony. I have met Bruce Springsteen on several occasions. I had met John Bon Jovi, and his drummer Tico Torres was my 5th grade square dancing partner. So we've been friends for many years.
Oh, wow.
There was a lot of garage bands that came out of New Jersey, and so that was pretty exciting. Of course, a lot of stuff came out of Philadelphia, which wasn't that far because New Jersey's this big. Okay, so you could go from one place to the other very easily. Lots of things went on in New York City, which I lived about 18 miles by car from New York City, and we would go in and do baseball games and go to shows. 1776 is one that comes to mind on Broadway, and those kind of things were always available to us, readily available. When I came here, it was more of you had to really plan, to do things like that. But that never bothered me either, because that was always kind of fun.
I love that. So let's move on to historical events. What were some major U.S. events that you remember?
Okay, I remember John F. Kennedy being shot, and Bobby, both. Of course, 9/11. I'm trying to think. Vietnam. A lot of the things that went on with Vietnam that was kind of a big thing. I did attend Woodstock from a distance. I was way back on a hill because a friend owned a farm where we could stand on the hill and kind of look down, but I did hear Jimi Hendrix sing Star Spangled Banner. That was pretty interesting. Yeah. Those kind of things it's a big deal. The opening of different buildings in New York City, which may not mean anything to anybody out here, but it was like a big deal. Basically because my mother's brother was a contractor, and he helped build 4 or 5 huge places in New York. So we always went in for the ribbon cutting kind of thing. But it's always been great. Yeah.
Awesome. What historical event do you believe affected the town the most? This can be Marshall or your town back home in New Jersey.
Well, I think the Vietnam War impacted both my hometown plus this one, on a personal level and on a national level, because it was a real problem for the younger people to, and I'm talking about my generation who's now in their 70s, for them to understand, what was happening and why we were doing this and to what purpose. And considering the way it all kind of ended, it never really was an explanation. So I think people had a hard time. It's not like when we walked into World War II knowing exactly what was going on and what we were fighting for. I'm not sure that was ever really clear, or it kept changing as time went on. And I think that was very frustrating for my generation in particular, because my generation was the one who was laying down their lives for.
So going into the review, how has the town changed since you moved here? How would you describe the community? And again, this can be New Jersey or Marshall.
Well, of course, New Jersey has changed so much. Some places are even unrecognizable to me, okay? That's just the way New Jersey is. It'll always be home to me. But I don't know that, Marshall's changed a lot. A lot of things have disappeared, and a lot of things have improved, which is great. But I think a lot more things could improve. You know, and I think people are trying. I'm just not sure that everybody's on board with some of the ideas. And it may be lack of communication, or maybe just a clear definition of what they're aiming for and why they're going where they're going and doing what they're doing. The park has changed for the better, although I always thought it was great. That was one of the drawing cards for me, was the park was wonderful. Swimming pool, you know, all that. We didn't even have a city swimming pool. And if there was a swimming pool, you had to pay to, you know, join up to go, and it was expensive. Of course, the deconstruction of the Hab Center kind of broke my heart, only because it was part of my history, and now it's gone. But they were a huge employment opportunity for people, and a lot of people made their living there. Banquet Foods has really changed over the years. It's built up, it's very modernized, it's very well run. The square, what they've done around there is wonderful. They probably could do more, you know, but I think it all comes with the right push from the right people.
For sure.
So.
How is the world different?
The family picture is completely different now than it was when I was a child. Divorce was very rare. I'm not saying marriages were any happier. I'm just saying divorce was very rare, okay? This was just not something people jumped into because of a last minute blip on the screen type of thing. Most every kid I ran around with, or friends of mine, had two parents and had siblings, and you know, they didn't necessarily get along, but they did well. I mean, you know, everybody had their place and it was all good. Yeah, I don't see enough of that anymore, and I feel like that kind of weakens the bonds between people, and I'm sad for it, but there's personally not much I can do about it. But that is one thing I'm sad that, you know, some of the students here don't benefit from, because it was a comfort to know that somebody had your back, you know. But then again, if you messed up, they would be sure to let you know that it was, you know, what you did was wrong. Now, I don't ever remember my parents coming to my rescue, you know, if I messed up. You know, if I messed up, I paid the price and I moved on. And they supported me in that. I mean, it wasn't like they, you know, disowned me. It was just, you have to take responsibility for your actions. Be that good, bad, or indifferent, okay? And I still feel that way. And I tried to raise my children that way. Sometimes you know, there are different situations where you might have to do a little bit one way or the other. But you know, if they did something wrong, it was important for me to let them know what it was and how they could do things differently. And what were they going to do to correct the current situation. And you know what? I don't think they got hurt. They may have been really angry with me, or my husband, but you know, eventually they've got it figured out. And of course, now my son has his own children, so it's, you know, it's one of those deals that now it all comes back home to you, you know, that kind of thing. So it's been interesting to watch.
For sure.
So,
What are you most proud of in your life?
that I'm still alive. There was moments.
Oh.
I don't know, that I can still be of use to people. You know, I can still, there's lots of things I can't do anymore because I am older, and it's a struggle, but I still have plenty to offer, and I, you know, I need to do that. I need to do it for myself as well as other people. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. The last question is, what advice would you give to young people growing up in this community today?
get involved. Get involved in any way you can, on a positive level.
For sure.
We all have our struggles with things, but there's some positive somewhere that you can promote. So,
Well, thank you. Is there
thank you.
anything else that you'd like to share?
No, I don't think so, other than at the end of my parents' lives, they moved here.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because my dad played minor league baseball in Nebraska in 1936 and 37. And so he always liked the Midwest. So they moved here when they got older, and it was, you know, they wanted to make sure somebody was around. My sister lives in Boston and has for 50, 60 years, something like that. So we're kind of spread out, but we're still together too, so.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.